Hello, hello, hello. Let me just make some adjustments over here. Actually, have my iPad monitoring so I can see who has come in. As I often say, no one could better converse with a musician than another musician. Let me adjust some of these lights I have around here. Okay, that one. All right. Looks a little more uh, cozy in here. How's everyone doing today? I see we have two online. As you come in, kindly let me know who you are so I can acknowledge that you're here. This is not a church setting, so I'm turning off some of the lights. In fact, I should go and let's see if we can add a little color. Pick a nice color. There we go. Let you know that this is off the cuff. This is nothing planned. Just want to spend some time with the musicians who have put in a hard day's work. And sometimes you need to be able to relax, kind of blow off some steam. And if anything musically came up that you may have a question about, this is a good time to ask that question. See whether or not the old G Sam can answer that for you. How you doing, Burgess? My brother, my oldest brother, I should say, coming to join us. We have others that are here. Hey, Larry, how are you? I know you guys who are still active in the church ministries. You very. I know back when I was full time Pentecostal Church of God in Christ musician, it took me 4 or 5 hours before I could actually unwind after a long day of service because you never really take a break. You always, even if you were sitting down having something to eat, you were still on pins and needles from the actual morning service. Me, I like to unwind playing a video game that takes my mind totally away from music. Yet while I'm playing the video game, I'm listening to the music that's in the background, trying to pick up some more chords and some more ideas. So you really never put the mindset of being a musician down. So this type of setting I have here, when I come live, I like to have as casual, as comfortable an atmosphere as possible. Now I've got the keyboard set up, and if I want to share some music with you, or if you want me to share a song, I have no problem doing that because music has its way. I've often thought that as a musician, we've spent maybe 6, 7 hours of an entire church experience playing music to soothe the souls of our listeners, but we never get it back in the way that it's actually given out. So generally, whenever I do play music, I'm in the mindset of I'm playing for someone to hear me, not for myself. When I practice, that's when I play to hear progression, growth, maybe um, more learning. But when I'm playing for someone or playing to someone, especially online, I picture myself when I was in church and there's a congregation quiet. What opening can I use? What intro can I use? What would be the chord phrasing to get me through to a song that was actually recognizable to the congregation? If it was a choir singing, then I, of course, played the intro that was common to that song. But if it was like a morning hymn, then there was always how will I start that morning hymn? Do I start just jump right into it, or do I give it maybe 30 seconds of the last chorus and then pause it to get the people to the point of anticipation to be able to sing? Or if it was a instrumental, from what uh, approach from a keyboard or organ standpoint that I want to start my own intro. So much musically goes on to the point where when do you actually stop thinking about music? And be honest with you, I don't. I don't. Never stop thinking about it. Always trying to see where the next time that I'm playing, how can I improve on the previous time. Don't know if we're gonna have others that are here. Please, I would like you to acknowledge that you're here so that I can acknowledge you. I think I just got off a a Zoom live. I was late getting to it because I didn't put a reminder in my phone to wake me up. As you when you get older, you cherish those days when you can just take that quick nap. I often say, whenever I'm napping or taking a quick snooze, it's what I've owed my body over the years of being awake and available for whomever I had to be awake and available for. So I earned the right to take a snooze whenever. But when I'm awake, then I am fully awake and I am geared up. I actually have an Apple Watch where I monitor my heart rate. I want to know when I was asleep, where was my heart rate? And when I'm up, what's a normal heart rate for me so that I know that I'm firing on all pistons. And whenever you play music, you'd like to think that your mindset can hear the music before you actually play it. That you know where the highest notes are, where the lowest notes are, what's in the middle. And as you're playing it, what approach do you want to use? I know my brother Vergis, he loves a reharm jazz approach to his music. So we can be playing the same song and we'll both approach it from different avenues of music. Same song, but we'll both approach it from different avenues. Now, sometimes we may cross if we were playing it together. Then, of course, one of us would lead, the other would accompany. But as individual players, we allow um, the mindset, the spirit that governs our mind musically to have its free reign. So if we speed it up, we speed it up. If we slow it down, we slow it down. We put a Caribbean beat, calypso beat, classical beat. Since a classical beat, about classical style. That's the direction that our mind chooses to take that song, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I see we have 4 viewing, so please, this is not a monologue for me. I'd love you to let us know who's here, and if you have communications with each other. I know my brother is here. He has no problem uh, expressing himself musically. So if you have any questions from those that are here, then certainly do ask those questions because we learn from one another. My brother has written, this is a different era of musicians. We had musical restrictions and church musicians discipline based on the music in that setting. Now musicians are free to play their thoughts. I think the music of today, um, as I listen to it, again, I'm a very intent listener. That's how I've learned the majority of all the songs I've learned. They are they're more hampered than we were, Vergis. At least we could the music that we learned back in our day required us to learn it how it sounded on the album. Today's music, because it has been structured to where musicians can not have a rehearsal yet sound like they were in rehearsal with the amount of chords they're using. It I think it's kind of limiting to them to be able to go outside of it because if they do change a chord, they'll throw off another musician. But if they keep it to the 1, to the 4, to the 6, to the 2, and then back to the 1, then everybody knows, okay, we know where you're going. But if you go outside of it, throw a dominant 7th with a 13th in there, chord wise, all the heads will turn. Even the drummer might even turn his head like, where'd that chord come from? I kind of think that we had less restrictions on us than what is happening to that than what is happening to today. As I say, I just came out of another Zoom meeting that was announced or promoted on on a Zoom platform, and Brother Jeffrey Lavalley was talking, and he commented how when he was a youngster, he was in the setting where the Hawkins were singing "Oh Happy Day," and he was listening to the crowd and how they were shouting it down and telling him to stop clapping his hands for "Oh Happy Day," and how they felt that that music was the devil's music, and you shouldn't be singing that song in the church. And he was saying to himself, a youngster, I don't hear anything wrong with the music. It's uplifting, it's up tempo. And they were so downing "Oh Happy Day." But then he said 2 months later, as other churches began to pick up on it because it was being promoted over the radio, now all of a sudden the mind of the people changed. Now they were embracing that song. But change is it's both a negative and a positive word. I'll put it that way. I've always used the term correct change. Change is inevitable. I'm no longer going to be 16 years old ever again in my life. I'm closing on 50 years past being 16, but some of the things I learned at 16 are still with me. Those teachings that were part of my public school indoctrination into the world of learning still stay with me. So I got correct change. I had enough learning to get me to the next level, which was employment, and then I had another change there. I had to learn a different level of education to run past my actual employment life. So just as in music, my music teaching in high school was that of big band, jazz band, classical music as an instrumentalist, but being self-taught to play the piano and the organ at the same time, I had to take that learned knowledge and apply it to hymns and to an anthem, to where yes, it was still an anthem, but I can now sneak a full jazz chord in there where appropriate, then pull it out and the song not be damaged musically, if that is the correct word to use. But then when the Hawkins music was beginning to be accepted, again, as I shared in that Zoom meeting, I was a musician in the Kojic church where the pastor stopped, or the bishop, I should say, stopped the choir from singing the battle. Don't wait till the battle is overshot now. He didn't want that song sung in his church. Stopped the choir midstream singing and said, don't sing that song again in this church. And we didn't. And I shared with him until he saw where your congregation was bigger when the choir was singing those new contemporary gospel songs. The orphan plate grew on those Sundays, so that tolerance of those songs changed. Well, the old Happy Day song, it sounds like that. I want to call it an Irish tune. How dry I am. Da 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 da. Da 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 da, da 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 da. When I looked up that song in the hymn book, the old Happy Day, and I said, "Oh wow, it is a sad song." He taught me how to wander back on Happy Day when Jesus washed my sins away. Yeah, that song from a hymnal. Uh, when you're playing to a setting of a era, change is not readily acceptable. But as the change comes in the hearts of the older people who stop the fighting, I should say, stop, I want to say fighting, stop the resisting that type of change by still appreciating where they came from, but then recognizing that there's a new group of congregants, new group of parishioners coming up who wasn't indoctrinated in 30 years of hymns. They're now wanting to hear those songs that actually has some hand clapping and their foot stomping. Uh, Larry, I've been um, on the end of having musicians around me in my early days. Even though I could read sheet music, there were some who could read the actual piano sheet music, and that wasn't me. So they would play him exactly note for note as it was written, to where I could hear the melody. Now, I may not be able to play the 3 or 4 part harmony note without spending time in it. They can just set the book down, and because of their teaching and their instructions, they would sit there and just play it right through. It sounded like a hymnal being played with the notes. There was no feeling to it. If the note had 4 beats, it got 4 beats and they went to the next note. But when I sat down to play that hymn, because I had instilled in me the jazz, the classical, and the Caribbean sound, I could put a little pop on that note. I may hold it a beat and a half and put a little pop there, just to give it a little bit of motion so that it doesn't sound like bum bum. Well, it's one of those songs we did. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah. Let's see. I should be set up to switch over. Let me do this. And I'm going to put you in the key of G. This is one of the songs that was a staple. A staple selection every day in my home church. Guide me, O thy great Jehovah was the song that the choir would march in on. And the musician at that time was Sister Ruth Laster, a learned organist, piano player who played by sheet music. Let me see if I can remember how she did it. Nothing wrong with this. And she was always going to play it like that. Every Sunday that the choir sang that song. But when I got a chance to be on the organ, I would go. So that was the sound. That was my sound when I was playing that song. I added the what you want to call trills to it. There we go. Now that was the way that I approached the song, still keeping it in its full form, but just adding some more to it so that um, it could have a much fuller sound and a different approach. It's getting a phone call. Let me just. Post a message that I'm on live. I seem to only get phone calls when I'm on live. There we go. Sure, I get a phone call back. So, but Didn't take away from the song. It was still accepted with those changes. There was no hymn book in front of me because I had memorized the melody of the song based upon the scales, and I began to add different flavorings to the song so that it can be interpreted and heard differently. And the people still sang it the same way. They still sang. They accepted her version and they accepted my version, which is, one of the things that as a musician, what you want is people to accept your offering musically to them. And my very brother said the pastor didn't like James Cleveland songs like "Peace Be Still," "Jesus Saved." Yeah, there was resistance. Yeah, and when back in that day, I'm not quite sure what the theology of pastors are now today, but back in that day, it was my way or the highway. If you don't like what I say here, there's the door. And when you're a youngster and that's your home church and your parents go there, you 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 conformed because back then you couldn't just leave a church and go somewhere else. Today, of course, young people have so much freedom. We didn't have freedom back in our day until we became of age, which was 18, and had a job where we can say, okay, but things are different today. Is it better or worse? The jury's not out yet. Time will tell whether or not the generation or the generations past me uh, are doing better than what we call the baby boomers. My brother and I, we're still in that. We're the tail end of the baby boomers. Baby boomers, those born in the early 50s to, I guess, that 10-year 50s to the 62, 63 phase of life. But why didn't the pastors not like that? Welcome, Elizabeth. It was contrary to what they believed. Pastors built their songs off of hymns and anthems and the spirituals. Many of them were not, well, I was in the East Coast. So I was in New York. So there's pastors from in my era that I can remember they were brought in from other parts of the country. Churches that were established, like Church of God in Christ, when they established a church, they would send pastors to pastor those churches. They weren't like homegrown. And again, I'm going on what little information that they would share with a youngster. I know whenever we'd have a visiting pastor, they'd be either from Chicago, um, from Detroit, from Memphis. Very few local homegrown pastors would ever go through my church. And certainly at that time, no pastors from a Baptist church would ever come into a Church of God in Christ. Whatever that thought preposterous was, they were the church. We were told those folk ain't saved. Don't go over there. Stay out of those places. Huh? Okay, it changed when I went to go play for a Baptist church, and I heard more Holy Ghost being taught there than I did in the Church of God in Christ. But that's another story for another time. But they were very they almost if though they were given a book to follow. If you're gonna have church, this is the order of service. Choir marches in, you have a prayer, choir sings a chant, you have another prayer, scripture is read, choir gives another selection, you have tithes, you collect the tithes, no song during the collection of tithes because you're reading out names of those who gave and those who didn't. This is going back to the 70s that I can remember. You had the offertory. The choir sung a selection. Then the choir marched after the offertory because everybody had to be seen giving. That was funny too. See choir members borrowing money so they can put something on the table. Um, you had another prayer after the offertory. Then the pastor or the speaker spoke. There was a call of worship. Those who wanted to be prayed for. Final remarks by the pastor, and a closing song, and then you would process out, all within from 11 o'clock to about quarter to two every Sunday. So there was a certain order to every service on every Sunday, and the choir really was giving a space to sing. If it was going to be any kind of a song they were going to sing, it was sung. The song had to be a certain tempo or a certain speed before the pastor spoke. Um, yeah, no real up tempo songs because all that hand clapping and foot stomping wasn't part of a worship service in the morning. We had different designations for service. Sunday morning was worship. Sunday night was praise service. So you can come then and sing your testimony songs and do your hand clapping. But there was an order, and as a musician, you had to follow the order of service that was given back then. I'll turn off some of these lights now. Get back to my mood. There we go. But that was instructional. That taught musicians not to go their own way when they're in the service. Shouting was a privilege, not a right. If the at that time, if the bishop looked and gave you this cut sign, you didn't say no, but you didn't say, well, the spirit is high, we're going to keep shouting. You stopped playing because you didn't want him to get up and have to walk over towards you. So we were trained. Being in the church back that Kojic church back at that time in the middle 70s, 73. I think that's the year I started playing with 73. That was the order that was followed. And um, for those who didn't want to follow order, there was the door. As I say, it's a lot different now. It's a lot different now. But at least musically, when I was allowed, if I was a pianist for my first 9 years. I didn't play the organ. That's why I loved the piano so much because I was well, privileged to play on a Steinway, beautiful Steinway too. It was a 6 foot grand. It was always tuned, kept up, and although there was a Hammond organ there, but usually when you got to play that piano, it would resonate throughout the building, and gave me an opportunity to cut my teeth on a quality instrument. Larry Prince grew up Baptist in the '90s and still definitely had an order. Yeah, this you knew what your role was. If you what was the old in the WWF wrestling when Dwayne Johnson the Rock had his iconic phrases. He says you knew your role and you shut your mouth. Know your role and shut your mouth. And that's what you did. What's your role? Play that music, and we don't want to hear nothing else about it. Do your job. Yeah, and that was back in the days where my brother maybe got $25. I got five, I think. And you hope they saved you a chicken sandwich downstairs if there's anything left. Because usually you had a rehearsal after the morning service with the children or with someone who was going to sing for an afternoon program and they wanted to go over the song with you. So you could never run downstairs and get your victuals or your meal. Those were the days of indoctrination. Church musicians now today, when I observe how they are able to participate in their various services, I often shake my head. You guys would not have survived in my day. Not in my day. You'd have been stopped at the front door. Hey, turn around and go home. Because they love singing that song. We don't need no music. But back then, you only had two instruments if you were lucky. Always had a piano, and if you're lucky, you had an organ. And if you're very lucky, you had a Hammond organ. But as they say, the churches were few and far between. It wasn't until the 80s where you had a lot of storefront churches opening up, and sometimes they'd be opening up two and three, at least in certain areas of New York, two or three on the same block because the street was so long, and a storefront church was basically a area, a I'm trying to think how wide it would be, maybe 20 by 20 area of a store that you just put your chairs in and you put in a pulpit and you got a piano in there or a guitar player and you open up your church. I often would think that musicians, or not musicians, but ministers who felt that they weren't given an opportunity to preach would get mad and leave the church and go open up their own church and take their family and take a couple other families with them and start their own church because they wanted a chance to preach every Sunday too. So they went out on their own. Wow, now some churches act like they can't live south out music. Oh, live without shout music. That I guess that's what you were typing, Elizabeth. Yeah, well, music became more powerful than the spoken word. People sometimes would rather hear the choir than to hear the preacher, which is why I think the preacher would always get up last because if the choir is singing, for the whole part of the service, you'd get your largest congregation on the Sunday when the choir that they wanted to hear was singing the latest music. You had ushers putting chairs down the middle aisle for the people to sit because they wanted to hear the choir. Act like they can't live without music. Yeah, well, because music has well, and I will say this because I can be honest in this sense. A lot of the earlier church pastors weren't singers. So they would start a song and would rely on the congregation and the choir to get them through the song. But as musicians, because I know a lot of them had made this transition. As musicians became, had started their own choir, and they would go around singing. Eventually, they became ministers, elders, and then pastors. So now you have a generation of pastors who were musicians. So now the music became that more important to that service because they saw how you got a larger congregation if you had singing music that was popular, which brought in all the competition between churches. Who had the best sounding choir? Who had the best sounding musician? Um, then later, of course, now it's who's got the best band because you don't have really choirs anymore, but you got to have a real smoking band, and that is a draw to your church, and you get the word in there somehow because after you get your 15-20 minutes of the word in, you turn it over to the band and let the folks shout. And I'm not against that as long as you are being effective in ministering to people. That's really the whole crust of what church is about, ministering to those who need to be ministered to. I struggle with people who start singing because I'm not a singer and no one wants to sing unless the worship leader starts singing the song. Yeah, well, that's how the, how can I put this, praise and worship um, mode started. It used to be back in my day when you would have testimony service, any member, old or new, could start a song and everybody would join in with that person. But when the praise and worship changeover, again, correct change, I'll put correct changeover began to happen, you had one person in the front with the microphone leading everybody. So if they didn't start the song, you weren't sure You didn't want to overstep them, or put it like that way. The person in the mic became the leader. And oftentimes I would watch when other people who weren't quite as vocally skilled would start a song, how the song would suffer. I mean, wrong key, wrong tempo, not the right words, and they're thinking that everybody's going to jump in with them. Musically, of course, I made sure that I was there to support them, even with playing the melody for them. But, people have their favorites. I mean, everybody is not, who was the greatest singer? Everybody was not Yolanda Adams or Donnie McClurkin when they had the microphone in their hand. But what we were supposed to do as musicians is no matter who was singing, support them. If they put us in the key of A major, support them in A major. Don't try to force them up to B flat. Don't try to push them down to A flat. Go to A major and give them the chords for that song. Of course, nowadays, everything is tracked, so you tracking your background vocals and potentially your lead vocals too. But as I say, if that is effective, that's all it's about. It's being effective, especially in music ministry. Welcome, uh, Brother Willie Thomas. Well, I wasn't going to stay here. It's been 36 minutes. I wasn't going to stay here too long. As I say, I just got out of a Zoom meeting, and we are all of us. I hate that term, older. I guess I can use the word seasoned. All of us seasoned musicians are working on sculpting a dialogue with the younger musicians so that we could pass on what we've learned on to them so that we can not necessarily sit back and watch them take off, but give you guys a full plate of understanding so that if you find yourself in whatever type of service you find yourself or your path of life takes you, you will be prepared. It was amazing to me that when I was on that Zoom meeting, they asked me to to talk a little bit about myself, and I had to let them know I'm the guy that was helping musicians back in 1992 and 1998, giving free lessons, getting them prepared to be able to help in a church without because back in that day no one helped you. Not even the church helped you. They would push you to the organ or to push you to the piano and say, "Well, let the Lord bless you, son. Bless you, daughter." And I knew, as a musician back then, that's not the way to do it. You've got to give them a handbook, if you want to put it out like that. This is how you prepare to play for a song. This is how you when you're in a church. Here's the preparation, the stones to that you have to the milestones you have to that are in front of you to be able to play for a church. It's more than just sitting down and starting to play. Again, it's a lot easier today because the music has been uh, the playing field for music has been laid out to where if you learn the number system, and I'll put it like that, the number, which is a jazz system, it's not a church system. Jazz musicians have been using the number system for years to be able to walk into any establishment and play a song that they knew the number system to. As the church began to um, indoctrinate musicians into this system, that they can play any song if they knew what number matches where the lyrics are going. I wanted the musicians to learn the scales, chords, phrases, patterns, um, in intuition as to how to approach it, so that they can put more of themselves in the song and not just a system that says here 1, 4, 5, 6. Now go back to the 2, the 3. Was it 7? 73251. That turnaround. There about dun 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 dun. Yeah, that which I often said, that's good to get started. That gets you in and out so that you can get a paycheck. But let's get you to the point, from my standpoint, let's get the musician to the point where he's writing a song and not just playing it. That's what I always endeavored to do, and I have done that. I've written my songs. I haven't promoted them to the point where I can have them compete in a sense against the more popular songs that are out there. But I'm not afraid to write a song within 30 seconds of it. If give me a theme, I'll have and some lyrics. I'll be able to put a melody to anything within reason, of course. But that's what this day has now afforded us older, seasoned musicians to do, is to share in spurts. If I were to give you everything that I've been learning, again, I probably got about half a dozen music books that I went through to understand fingering placement on a keyboard and how to form a chord and what it sounds like when I form it, and then train my ear to hear that chord played in every song that I ever learned, to know that. So that's why he used this chord in that phrasing of his music. Today, those chords are not being used as much, but I don't abandon them because every new chord I'm hearing is an offshoot of that chord. Now, maybe they're not playing it so close together, but they've now spread it out and give a new twist to it. That's what I look to hear, not how it sounded then, but how does it sound now in the approach to playing music. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. As I often said, there's never a bad question or a question that I don't want to ask the wrong question. No, there's never a wrong question. I think the question that is not asked that leaves you still questioning, um, it leaves an actual void, if though something is being kept from not just you, but from any musician. I've always wondered how come I can't get a large audience of musicians whenever I post. And sometimes I feel like I'm posting too much. As I say, that's that mindset of mine that is, well, if they don't come to where I am, let me just keep giving it to them, and whosoever will be able to learn from it. But there are some times when I am a little bit discouraged that other musicians can get 100 people to come into a live when they have it, and they share no chords. And sometimes I'll go in there and I'm listening. Are they going to share chords? Are they going to show fingering? Are they going to show technique? And I'm like, okay. So I keep quiet and I stay in the back because I learned how to be a church mouse in some respects. But then if they are playing anything, I'm going to learn what they're doing, break it down, and then I'll do a live and I'll play those same chords back, just for those who may have been out there who are afraid to say something again because they don't want to be the only person to ask, what chord did you play there just now? No, I've never believed into, oh, don't worry, God will give it to you. No, I never believed in that. I believed God will give you the mindset to pick up a book and go and educate yourself. He will help your mind to retain what you've learned, but he'll never give you a chord. I was never given music. I was taught music as an instrumentalist. I was never taught, and I keep saying this because I'm going to help someone out there that thinks that they have to go to school to be able to play. I was never taught how to play piano. One teacher that I had in my high school showed me how to play the C major scale and three chords in the key of D. And he says, "You're not here to learn to play piano. I'll show you this." Because I asked him, "How do you play a scale?" And he showed me the correct fingering for just the key of C, not knowing that every other key uses a different fingering. Well, I found that out when I went out and I purchased the book. And I said, "Oh, you don't use the thumb up in D flat to play the scale. You use the second finger. Oh, that's much more comfortable now. Oh, you go to E flat, you use your third finger to start the scale in E flat. Wow, that even feels more comfortable. Now my hands can fly across the keyboard." Got that out of the book. As I say, when I watch other lives with other musicians, I question how come No one will ask a question other than complimenting that musician. Well, what a great and anointed musician they are, but they don't ask them. Tell me something. In this song that you played, why did you use that phrasing of chords? I love the way that sounds. Can you write those chords out for me so I may learn that too? As I say, sometimes you Bible says, and it's one center scripture, you have not because you ask not. You should never be afraid to talk to a musician. Now, of course if they're playing for a service, they shouldn't stop with playing for a service to answer your question. But if it's a downtime, if it's something like right now where they go on live, you should never be afraid to ask, because all they can say is no, or direct you to a reference book or to someone that says, "Hey, I learned from this guy. He's offering classes, or he's doing a free. He has free lessons on YouTube. You can go there, and those very same chords he's teaching are the chords you can learn that I play." We can all learn. We all can learn. You can even learn while you are playing, improvise, or you've been playing for a while. Make it up as you go. Yeah, I think Willie, the improvising is done in your practice session. You don't want to improvise during a service, and then you lose where you are in you lose, or you lose your placement of chords to a song that may throw off someone singing, or a mood. I know there are times when I've played songs in the church for the choir, and I'm playing the song, and I wanted to try something different, and my finger slipped. A whole wrong chord came out. I had to I had to chastise myself. Why am I doing this? This is not my rehearsal. Don't do that again, because I heard it wrong, and I'm sure someone who's musically inclined heard me play it wrong also. Jeffrey Raleigh said he didn't know how to sing. His pastor slammed the book down and said, "Sing Revelations 19." I'm not a singer. I do know the notes, though. I know the sound of major and minor notes, and how a diminished chord sounds, and how a sus chord sounds in my ear. So if I play it, I know when it's not the right chord. But if you were to ask me to sing, I would say no. Maybe I'll sing baritone, or I'll sing bass in a range where I would feel comfortable doing it. But and there are some musicians out there who are tremendous. The ones that can play and sing, I would marvel. I go, gee, I got on the wrong line, because I can't do both. Elizabeth, that's when you learn how, what I call home chords. When you know where the home chords are, if you branch out past the home chords and you get lost, you know you can always go back home. And the home chords are the 1, 4, 5, 6 chords, because every song is based pretty much on the 1, 4, 5, 6. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. Let's do this. Give me a chance to. Changing my scene. If you were doing the song Alpha and Omega, and you were going to go to key of D flat, and you were wanting to try something different, of course, whenever I play this song, I hear the melody in my head, so that I will know as I step through the chords. So I know that's the melody. Again, based on a scale. I know this is the highest note. I know that is the lowest note. So my home chords would be, as a home chord, home chord, home chord. home chord, home chord. So two home chords. So because I know those are my home chords, if I ever decided to go outside of that, I can now go here. When outside of the home chords, outside of the chords, now I just got lost because I went out of the home chords. Find my way back home. Trying to go outside. Out of the chord. Now I'm lost. But that's where it should be. That's what I wanted. It's that kind of concept that I've always used to be able to intelligently look at a song using what the original writer. So I got all my lights on now. I'll leave the one back there on. What the original writer used in the song, and then what can I add to augment what the original writer used. So you saw me stay within the context of the melody, the home chords, the bass chords, and then begin to expand to give a little more emphasis on certain parts of the song. And those chords came from Hawkins songs, came from Whitfield chords, came from Smallwood chords, came from Andre Crouch chords. Now, could I tell you which ones they were uses? The minor sixes, the diminished sevenths. Those are the Whitfield chords. The trying to remember. I'm in my mind. I'm picturing all the chords I used. There were some contemporary changes which were found in the Hawkins songs. When I went down, those are the Hawkins chords. Every song I learned had different chords that I learned, so that when I was to whatever song I play, I can actually reach back and pull that chord from that era and show where it will fit in that song. As my brother says, it has a personality that if you would have heard that song 20 years earlier, if you never heard that chord, some of those changes 20 years earlier, you would have thought, you must have came up with that right now. No, I pulled from a past chord I've learned in another song that I know will fit. That would have fit back in that song if it was written in that era. And I think that's what that light behind me is really bothering me. Let me turn that off. That's what I feel that the us seasoned musicians should want to pass on to this generation of musicians, those chords that you do not hear today anymore, that are not being heard, to add to what they're currently doing. As we now listen to the chords of today that you're using and add them to what we do. Don't want to miss anyone else's comments. And it's in settings like this where not just talk, but demonstrations that can be recorded, that can be revisited, that can be viewed. You saw my hands spreading across a myriad of keys, and you may want to ask, well, my hands are not that large. If the if a question or comment came like that, I could express, well, here's how you can play that same chord without having to put stress on your hand to reach them. Because not everybody, I've seen musicians who have fingers that when I watch them play, I go, I can't reach that change. So what would I need to do? How long would I have to, or how quickly would my hands need to move across the keyboard so I can still play that chord in its entirety? Or which notes will I have to actually leave off so that I can still play the fullness and the richness of that chord? And as you saw me play that song, Alpha and Omega, would I have used all those changes in that song? If it went for 5 or 10 minutes, probably. But they would have gotten the basics of the song first to set the atmosphere of worship for a song like that. That's what I attempt to communicate in all of my videos. That this is such an easy concept. An alphabet teaches you how to construct words, and words become phrases, and phrases become sentences. Sentences become paragraphs, and paragraphs become chapters, and chapters become the book. Everything builds on itself. That is the concept that I learned as a young musician and now as a seasoned musician. Do I have a a recording of of references from the how you doing, Taryn? Of my accomplishments in music? No, I just have my testimony as a musician that in all the times that I played, I gave 100% to whatever music I was playing. I didn't never say, "Oh, I don't want to play this song. This song sounds horrible." I played an anthem just as strongly as I played as a an actual contemporary gospel song. They all got the full 100 or 110%. And if I had to change the key of the song because the choir couldn't reach those notes, then the song got the same fervor in the lower key. Never went up on a song. Never was I told, "Hey, can you raise this song for the choir?" It was always, "Can you take it down 2, 3 steps because we can't reach those notes." I go, "Not a problem." Da 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 da. Okay, give me the alto part. Okay, here's the alto part. I play very basic. I'm trying to go outside, but like I said, I get lost in barrels. You definitely helped me in finding the home chords. Yeah, Elizabeth. Trying to think, where can I? I'm trying to think of what song I could give you that you could practice to get you comfortable. Elizabeth, what is your favorite key on to play in? That's always important. Every musician should have a favorite key. If you don't mind sharing that, that'll give me an idea. If I know what your favorite key is, I can suggest a a song that would help you with practicing playing basic and going outside of that song. I'm going to say, being female, it won't be C, it won't be F, it won't be B flat, it won't be G. I was going to say D flat and A flat. Okay, here are some secrets. If you practice the C minor scale, the C minor scale is the E flat major scale, if that makes any sense. I think I covered that in one of the videos, lives that I did. C minor scale is the E flat major scale. Those are where your chords can come from to go outside. Let me change over again so I can demonstrate that, because I believe in showing what I'm talking about. Now, as we all know, we need flat, we're in D flat. Let's change the Chordy app to E flat. E flat is a congregational key. They're singing "Bless That Wonderful Name of Jesus." In the praise and worship songs, what is that song? Trying to get it in my head. It's a very basic song. Sanctuary. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. Yeah, that's a good one. In E flat. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. So now there's the entire song in 5 notes. If you know the C minor scale, it is the same as the E flat major scale. If you were down here, switch to the C minor scale, the same as the E flat major scale. So if you were going to do Lord, prepare me, this is all in the E flat major scale, to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, holy, there it is. Trying to get that bass right. Tried and true, with thanksgiving. Try to stay all major. I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. Those are the home chords. Will those chords get you through the song? Yes. But if you know the C minor scale, which is the same as the E flat major scale, now you can borrow from C minor. Lord, right? There's the minor. Prepare me to be a sanctuary. Right? Because C, holy, right? It's in that scale. That chord is in the scale. Tried and true. A little diminishing there. Back to that minor. Why? Because it's put that minor in there, but the whole chord changes because of the last note. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. So I borrowed chords that are in the C minor range, in the C major range. Why? Because in E flat, the C scale is in the key of E flat, which means I can borrow chords to go outside of that melody. Lord, prepare to be a sanctuary. Really going outside. Jazz flavor. If I take the chord apart, it's a G chord. Why is it a G there? Because G is a part of the E flat major scale, so I can borrow that chord. Jazz feel. Lord, for you. Down, 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 down. Going outside of chords is merely looking at what notes are in the scale in which you're playing in and seeing what chords are associated with that scale, and then just trying them out. Trying to see what chords, number one, are in that scale, and can it, not by playing every note in that scale, but omitting the notes that you're not going to use, to see what it sounds like. So I would say, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary would be a chord, a key, a song to learn in the key of E flat to help you with building comfortable chords around a very basic melody that's based on 5 notes. But as you can see, I was able to expand on those chords in support of those notes. And you said A flat. A flat, what would I recommend you do in A flat? Whatever is your favorite song that you play in A flat, begin to add sevenths, diminished, minor 6. I'm trying to think how far out should I have you go. 7th, major 6, minor 6, and diminished chords. Well, I'm giving you a pattern. I won't give you all the chords in a circle of fifths, just the ones that'll add to the chords that you already know. See, when you play a song that is very familiar to you, you can play with your eyes closed because your muscle memory is going to say, go here, go here, go there. But if I give you a chord that will still support the melody of that song, but that makes you go to a different sound, that's when you begin to add to chords that you don't normally play, and you'll be able to hear, wow, this sounds a lot nicer. I thought about Thank You, Lord, but I wanted it to be a song that she plays all the time, that she can actually play with her eyes closed. I have plenty of songs I can play with my eyes closed. I just, in the key, I know where my finger is going to go, keeping it simple, of course, not just going off the rails. But I can just, usually I'll play and I can actually look away. Because usually whenever I was a musician, I was also helping the choir to know their parts and helping the tenors to sing their parts. So I could look away from the piano or the organ and keep playing. But Thank You, Lord is the traditional, not the Hawkins version of Thank You, Lord. But just to start to introduce seventh sounding chords, which is what you heard in what I was playing there, minor six chords, and diminished chords, um, just to begin a platform of adding additional chords to what you don't normally do. And then post a video so I can hear you playing it, because I won't know if you've grasped the concept that I'm trying to get across to you unless I can hear you play it. I just need 30 seconds of it. When I do my Skype lessons, I always ask the person who I'm teaching the lesson to is to play me the scale of the song they want to learn, and that'll let me know, number one, do they practice scales, and number two, can they recognize when they play a wrong note? And usually I can tell if a person practices scales. Usually I can tell, because then I go to them. Okay, how can you hear the song if you don't hear the notes that are associated in the song? That's the number one reason why I stress scales. Although some may say he keeps talking scales again, but every song you play is a scale, minus the notes that are in it. And when you know where those notes are in the scale and which ones they're not using, those help support the chords. Whatever scales, then whatever chords, whatever notes in the scale they're not using, that helps to support the chords that you can use. That's why I said the C minor scale is the same as the E flat major scale. So those chords in that C minor phrasing you can use to help bring out a different sound basis the home chords, or the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords, which are the home chords. That jazz feel, that classical touch. Well, I thank everyone for coming in. It's been an hour. Appreciate you coming, those who were here. I have 7 in the room right now, so I don't want to miss anyone. Willie, thank you for coming in. My brother Vergis, Larry Prince, always. Elizabeth, thank you for asking your questions. Again, I often say there's never a wrong question. Even if I don't know, I'll find out. I got no problem. Taryn Thomas, thank you for stopping in and offering your comments. Again, I look at every comment because I don't want to leave out anybody. As always, if you have any questions of me, if you post on this live, I'll get a notification. I will answer every question that I possibly can. Again, I have nothing to hide. As you can see, whenever I post, let me change my lighting here. Whenever I switch over to my keyboard view, you get to see the actual notes. Elizabeth, I never know when I'm going to come on. It's sort of a spur of the moment for me. I even do that on my YouTube page because I have so many people around the world on my YouTube page who are in different countries or different parts of the United States. I don't know what their time zone is, where they are. They got people from Brazil and from Australia, and one guy was actually from Japan, and he made a comment. He says, "Can you please turn the light on over your keyboard so I can see your hands?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that someone was paying attention to where my hands were falling." So I made sure I turn on all the lights now whenever I do my keyboard. That's why you see me jumping up and down, because he made a comment. His name was in Japanese. I couldn't even pronounce it. I said, "Thank you for making me aware that someone is watching how my hands go on the keyboard." Even though they could see the notes with the Chordy app, I guess he wanted to understand, well, how do you place your hands to play that chord? So now I'm very conscious of that. As you can see, I'll stop and turn the lights on, and then I'll come back up and I'll turn them off, trying to keep this kind of an atmosphere. But I do appreciate those who allow me to share. Uh, I may look at doing something, Elizabeth, on. See, when are musicians really not tied up in doing something? Some have rehearsal nights during the week. Saturdays they are getting prepared for Sunday, and then Sundays they're worn out from a whole week of services. I may schedule. I may look at maybe doing something on. I don't want to say Monday either. Monday is like rest day for a lot of musicians. I don't know. Let's say Monday through Thursday. I may look at. Oh, you. Thank you very much. I may look at setting up a schedule where maybe 9 o'clock one weeknight evening, if it's not a rehearsal night or a service night for some people. Just setting up, just to have conversation, talk. I had said on my Facebook page, not, excuse me, on my YouTube page, I was going to start doing reaction videos to different songs as I search the internet and I look for the latest songs that are coming out. Just try and get the chords out there now in the way that I hear them and I interpret them, so that musicians that may want to learn these songs won't be struggling with them before they're asked to. Oh, thank you, sir. One of my longtime supporters, brother Oliver and his family. They were one of the first ones when I started my journey of creating instrumental CDs. They were my biggest supporters. They said, make sure you send us whatever you put something out. I haven't done a CD in a while, but I'm going more now towards going live. Not going live, but putting it on, making it digital on YouTube. Not on YouTube, but on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora. Now that I have an account with them, because it's a lot cheaper to make it digital than having to buy CDs and then burn them and then label them and then shipping. Although cars nowadays lets you play from your iPhone, but who see who we'll see if I'll tread down that path of doing a CD again. Well, everyone, it's 10 o'clock here in the East Coast. I know everybody lost an hour, and I'm not going to take one from you. It should be normally 11:10 right now. So for those of you that are getting up to go, in Spotify, you'll see it under Sound of Joy. I believe that's how I have it under Spotify. I think I did I post the song? I wrote a song that I posted there. Let's see. Do I still have that link for it? On my on my on my page, you see a link to a song I posted on Spotify that I wrote. My first attempt of writing a four chord praise song with another person singing it. I thought it sounded good. But if you search for "Trust in the Lord with all your heart," I believe it's "Trust in the Lord" on Spotify, I should pop up as the songwriter, not the singer, but the writer. I don't think I had a. Did I drag an image in here? Yeah, I could. Let me find the image of that. Should be do trust in the Lord. Nope, would be on documents. No, main page. No. Thought I had an image of the Spotify page. Let's see. Trust in the. Okay, is that it? Trust in the Lord. Nope, that's not the Spotify image. You'll find me. I thought I had an image of the Spotify page. I should be able to post this on. Let's see if I can drag this in. No, I guess I can't. I tried to drag in an image so you can see what it would look like. But yeah, I am on Spotify. I think I've got two songs on Spotify. I wrote a wedding song. Um, we will always be friends. So that's the two songs I have on Spotify. I need to get busy and get the next two or three songs up there also for the rest of this year. Trying not to rush anything. I'm trying to, as I'm in my retirement stage, to, as they say, milk this. Try to be as comfortable as I possibly can. Keep, of course, staying healthy, staying active, but allowing myself to also get all the rest that I want, so I can be as productive as possible and still have clarity of mind and of conscience. Again, everyone be blessed. Thank you again for watching. Share this with everyone that you know. I may or may not post this on my YouTube page. As I say, I always try to um, say something that's going to be of beneficial to those who are listening. So for those on my YouTube page, I probably will post this. This is for you to enjoy of what I was covering tonight. Just musician talk and some playing. I usually end every one of my live sessions with a song. So if I have a if there a request for a song I could do, I always try to end every every live with a song from my viewers. I know whenever I do my YouTube live, I'll get 4 or 5 requests from viewers from all over the world, really. So if there's no request, let's see. We are in. Trying to remember the season we're in. I was a United Methodist Church musician for 19 years, and this is the God is by James Cleveland. Okay, I've done that one on my YouTube page. I don't mind doing that here because that is a favorite of mine also, and it's in the key of A flat. So you get to see some chords that I put with that song. So God is. Let me change. Thank you for spending time with me. Turn off some of the lights. And I trust that you have a good night's sleep and a beautiful week. Pray for this world and everything that is happening in it. Seemingly, we get out of one calamity, we jump right into another one. But that's why we have music to help keep our hearts and minds turned towards better days and better futures for us all. Be blessed, everyone. Take care. Sound of Joy, Sam Tolbert, Sound of Joy Music Services. Be blessed.